Good day, everyone. I am Henry Fernandez, Chairman and CEO of Msci. I would like to thank Sina Finance for inviting me to participate in this event alongside a truly impressive list of global thought leaders. As many of you know, Msci has a large and growing franchise in China. We have more than 140 employees in the mainland and Hong Kong. We have been doing business in China for more than 2 decades. In fact, we opened our first office in Shanghai 17 years ago. In 2018, we began including China A shares in Msci indices. Last October, Hong Kong exchanges launched an Msci China A share index future. In short, Msci fully appreciates the importance of China and the entire Asia-Pacific region to our global economic future. In fact, when we hosted our first ever Capital for Climate Action conference a few weeks ago, we devoted an entire day to the APAC region. The opening keynote that day was delivered by Dr. Ma Jun of the Beijing Institute of Finance and Sustainability. As our speakers emphasize, APAC represents a microcosm of the global climate challenge. It will play a critical role in helping the world reach net zero emissions. In my remarks today, I would like to explore these topics and consider what they mean for investors and policymakers. The climate challenge is really 4 separate challenges. First, the world must reallocate capital to finance low carbon investments. Second, we must drive the innovation that produces large-scale climate solutions. Third, we must use these climate solutions to deliver affordable, reliable, and low-carbon energy. Last but not least, we must build climate-resilient infrastructure and food systems while protecting natural resources. The magnitude of these challenges will vary from country to country and region to region. Asia Pacific is home to a wide variety of countries at different stages of development. A few years ago, a McKinsey Global Institute report on climate risk divided the region into 4 separate categories: Frontier Asia, Emerging Asia, Advanced Asia, and China. Frontier Asia includes Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. Emerging Asia includes the major countries of Southeast Asia. Advanced Asia means Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea. And China is in a category all its own. The report showed that Frontier Asia and Emerging Asia are most vulnerable to the physical impacts of climate change, not only because their economies rely more on outdoor work and natural capital, but also because they have lower levels of GDP per capita and cannot afford expensive adaptation measures. To put the risk in perspective, in March and April of this year, India and Pakistan suffered an extreme heat wave that killed at least 90 people. Scientists with the World Weather Attribution Group found that climate change has increased the probability of such heat waves by a factor of 30. Risk levels would only get worse if global temperatures continue rising. On the positive side, APAC countries like China and Japan have become global leaders in low carbon technologies. Just look at electric vehicles. More EVs were sold in China in 2021 than were sold in the entire world in 2020, according to the International Energy Agency. Meanwhile, China accounted for half of all global growth in EV sales last year and most global growth in the first quarter of 2022. In addition, the IEA has declared China to be the undisputable global leader of renewable energy expansion worldwide. Renewable energy and low carbon innovation leaders. Some of its poorest countries, by per capita income, face the most serious physical risks from rising global temperatures. Those same countries need massive financial assistance, both to reduce emissions and to build climate resilient infrastructure and food systems. In 2017, the Asian Development Bank estimated that total infrastructure needs in the Asia-Pacific region, including the cost of climate mitigation and adaptation, would exceed $26 trillion through 2030. What does all that mean for climate finance and investing? To start with, climate-related investments can take many forms. Renewable energy is the most obvious example, and it is essential to reaching net zero emissions. But renewable energy alone is not enough. Climate-related investments must also support new technologies, promising startups, infrastructure projects, and companies of all kinds that are positioned to thrive during the low carbon transition. Such investments are especially important in APAC. This region now accounts for 80% of global coal consumption and a majority of global carbon emissions. To accelerate progress towards net zero, investors need information. Not just any information, but meaningful data that allow them to compare the climate profile of industry peers and understand the likely impact of different investments. The most obvious solution would be mandatory climate disclosures for listed companies. I am happy to note that a number of APAC countries have already become global leaders in this area. However, issuers in many parts of the world still face multiple voluntary disclosure standards that sometimes conflict. Mandatory disclosures would help investors better understand climate-related risks and opportunities. In particular, industry-specific disclosures would provide consistent and comparable information. This will help create a shared taxonomy and uniform standards for different sectors of the economy. As we collect more and more climate-related financial data, investors can use the data to decarbonize their portfolios while still pursuing strong returns. Of course, even with a rapid expansion of climate investing, developing countries will still need additional net zero transition support from advanced countries. The IEA has projected that clean energy investments in developing countries will have to increase more than 7-fold by the end of this decade to more than $1 trillion per year to keep the world on track for net zero by 2050. Over the short term, we can help bridge the gap with blended finance. By that, I mean governments can provide concessional or below market loans to make clean energy projects more attractive for private sector investors. Over the long term, one of the best ways to reduce the green premium and thus reduce the cost of low carbon energy and products would be through global carbon pricing. While top-down regulations often seem to pick winners and losers in the economy, a well-designed carbon price would unleash market forces to maximize the potential of technology, energy efficiency, and renewables. I realize that in the current high inflation, high energy price environment, governments have no desire to make energy more expensive. So for now, carbon pricing is probably a political non-starter. But again, if we take the longer view, global carbon pricing will speed up the capital reallocation and asset repricing that are critical to the net zero revolution. UN Special Envoy Mark Carney has said that climate-related investments represent the greatest commercial opportunity of our age. Maximizing that opportunity will demand action from governments, industries, and individuals. Governments need to create a policy framework that drives decarbonization in every sector of the economy. Industries need to develop functional climate solutions through capital reallocation, support for innovation, and strategies to reduce emissions. Finally, individuals need to reduce their own carbon footprint while finding ways to use energy more efficiently. Large-scale energy transitions tend to unfold over decades rather than years. But the urgency of our current transition demands a faster timeline. The latest UN IPCC report says that limiting global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius will require global greenhouse emissions to peak before 2025 and to decline 43% by 2030. It will be impossible to meet those targets without a strong commitment from the financial and investment industry here in APAC. That is why conferences like this ones are so important. Thank you again for having me, and please enjoy the rest of your program.